This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I'm here with another Jamie this evening. I'm here with Jamie Bisonnette from Toro and from Coppa, Boston, United States of America. How are you, sir?
Doing well.
So you're here in Toronto. You're doing a dinner with the group of 7 chefs. What exactly are you doing here?
We're having a hunters gather feast, like a post Thanksgiving gut bomb feast. Just cooking a lot of fun stuff, family style, very casual. We're just looking to kind of get together, get to know each other, mingle.
And this is your first time in Toronto?
My first time in Toronto, absolutely.
Right. Okay. And how did you come to meet the group of 7 chefs?
Scott reached out to me through social media. We had a lot of common friends. I think we'd heard of each other through other people and respected what each other did. And he just kind of threw it out there and said, "Hey, we'd love to have you come up sometime." And I'd love to come up. And we kind of just came from there.
Excellent. Now, according to my research, you were a bit of a kind of child prodigy in the kitchen, but I've noted that you said that your mother was not the best of cooks. Is there any truth in this?
My mother was a terrible cook. I haven't talked to her in 20 years, so I don't know if she's gotten any better, but I can't imagine that she has. Yeah, she's terrible.
Now, when you say a terrible cook, what do you mean by that? Because I can possibly relate to what you're saying.
You know, I never knew that you could have fresh vegetables. I thought potatoes came out of a powdered box and mushrooms came out of a can as a kid. You know, her idea of shish kebab was buying like beef stew, dumping out the ingredients, and shish kebabbing the already cooked stewed meat and then grilling that. Maybe a fresh red bell pepper or green bell pepper just to change it up. It was just bad, really bad food. And
do you really feel that's what drove you towards learning how to cook yourself?
Partially. We had her food was really bad, and she would do FFY on Thursdays, fend for yourself, where we get to cook. My sister and I would cook for ourselves, and I became a vegetarian. I was a punk rock straight edge kid, and
I was about to ask you about the straight edge thing. I never quite worked out how the straight edge thing aligned itself with punk rock, because punk rock for me was all about excess.
Well, the punk rock community was the punks. They were partying, they were doing drugs. And then it was the hardcore kids in DC. They called themselves hardcore punks. They were straight edge. They were the ones who said, "Hey, listen, I don't want to be wasted all the time. I want to remember last night. I want to get a message out there, but I still don't want to be like everybody else." So they were, it's the hardcore movement, which was just basically the extension of punk, hardcore punk. And but yeah, that was part of the ethos was no smoking, no drinking, no promiscuous sex, no drugs, no red meat, being healthy. It wasn't always no red meat. It was kind of like do what you could to be healthy for your body. And a lot of us became vegetarian, vegan, got into Hare Krishna, and lots of different things.
How did that work out for you?
It was interesting. It definitely got me through a lot of crap. I was a punk. I had a bad attitude. I fought a lot. If I had been drinking and doing drugs, who knows where I'd be now. But I was straight edge until I was in my early 20s, vegetarian until I was 21, and I cooked for myself and cooked for bands that would tour. People would come through,
yeah.
And that was, I think a lot of cultures, people bond, over food, over drink, whether it's a beer after work, or if it's lunch with your friends, or when you're on tour, it's drive forever, play for 45 minutes, and then figure out where you're going to eat. And I was just really good at taking $3 and making a stew that would feed 12 people. And when I was 17, I dropped out of high school and went to culinary school.
That was in Connecticut, right?
I left Connecticut, left Hartford, and went down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and went to culinary school, and then the rest, as they say, is history.
So once you got into cooking, how did you get to the kind of place that you are today? Because you're now this kind of star of Boston. You're writing guides to Boston for GQ magazine. You're doing all sorts of stuff now. I mean, you've been awarded best new chef, best new restaurant. I mean, how do you handle all this fame? Has it really gone to your head? Because you're not straight edge anymore.
No, definitely not straight edge anymore. And I don't know. I don't think it went to my head. I think if anything, it makes, some people, somebody tells them they're good at something, and all they want to do is puff up and brag. For me, the more somebody tells me I'm good at something, or the more somebody tells me they want to write about what we're doing, or if they think my restaurant is great, the more it makes me kind of want to sink back into the kitchen and not talk to people and concentrate, because I feel the more accolades one gets, the more critical everyone is. There's always somebody out there who's going to hate somebody just because they've heard they're good, whether or not they've been to the restaurant. And those are the fears that keep me up at night. So I know I'm always pushing myself and pushing my team and, trying to focus on what's important. And at the end of the day, what's important is the hospitality part of our industry. Good food, good service, good drinks, and just smile. treat people all the same.
When it comes to television and the cult of the celebrity chef, you've had a little bit of a dabbling in that with the Chop program, which you were incredibly successful with and made quite an impact, literally. How do you find that whole cult of the television chef? How do you feel about that?
I think good people are good people no matter how they get recognition. So you take somebody who's been on one of those shows who's a dick in real life, and that just makes them more of a dick. I feel like TV takes the soul of what the core of what a person is, especially a chef, and just multiplies it. So if you're a douchebag and you go on TV, you become a wicked douchebag. But if you're a really nice person and you go on TV, you end up being somebody like Ming Tsai, who's just one of the nicest human beings in the world, or Jacques Pepin, who's like an
He's your favorite chef ever, isn't he?
Jacques Pepin is absolutely one of my favorite human beings ever. Absolutely, he is the true original rock star chef in my world. But I feel some people use TV to make their careers, and some people, use their careers to get on TV for fun. And I think there's a balance, as long as you realize that at the end of the day, no matter what you do, television's not real. It's still just television.
Some people don't realize that, though, Jamie. That's the thing.
Well, that's true. That's true.
You chose to go down the nose to tail route. Why was that?
Because I'm cheap.
There's no Scottish in you.
You look at somebody buying all the same cuts when I was younger cooking, and they always use the same things, and you've got to set yourself apart somehow. And if everybody is doing the cookie cutter menu of pork tenderloin and chicken breasts and New York strip steak, where's the rest of the animal going? And we started getting in whole chickens, and that's where it started. I said, well, what are we doing with the wings, and what are we doing with these the pieces they called oysters, and what can we do with the feet? And I did research, and this was back before internet. I didn't have an email address. There was nowhere to get the quick answer. There was no Google search. So for me, it was going to the library, going to a bookstore, and just looking through every kind of ethnic book and figuring, well, you can eat chicken feet. They do that in dim sum restaurants, and you can eat, you can serve chicken wings in a fine dining restaurant. They were doing it at Côte d'Or, and Bernard Boisseau was doing it. Then you read a book by Michel Girard on Monsieur Cooking and Cooking Healthy, and you realize there's so many other parts of the animal. And I really just fell in love with French food, and people would say, gâteau bresson, or the brie cake of brains, and from brie, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. Why aren't we? We've got so many eggs, and they've got veal, and they're using eggs and veal brains and hazelnuts to make something delicious. I want to try that. There's nowhere to eat it, so I started trying to cook it for myself and just learning about it, pâtés and things like that. And the only way to get some of those ingredients back then, if you wanted to cook with a pork belly, you had to order a whole pig. So that's where it started.
So if you could give a few words of advice to your let's say your 15-year-old self, if you could go back in time, give a little bit of advice.
What would you 15-year-old self?
Yeah, what would you say?
Stop punching people.
you were crazily punching people at that point?
Yeah.
Fighting was a big part of your life.
Yeah. I was a dick. Professional though, I would say, looking back, don't worry about what anybody else thinks of you, because at the end of the day, everybody's going to judge you no matter what you do. So do what you want to do to make yourself happy and be true to yourself, because at the end of the day, if they're going to judge you, at least you're happy.
On that note, Jamie, thank you very much for joining us today at Good Food Revolution.
Thanks.